Hi everybody, and welcome to Inking on the Fly with me, Amy Jasper. Hello. Today I want to share with you a adhesive desktop caddy that we can make so that we can be more organized. Let me show you one of my finished products. So this is the caddy that I made recently. So it has designer series paper on the sides. It's got some ribbon around it to decorate it. It has a pocket specifically for each adhesive. So the Tombow liquid glue pocket only will hold the liquid glue upside down so that you always have liquid glue ready at the tip of your glue pen or glue stick. You have your glue dots, you have your tear and tape, and your dimensionals. And then you have two pockets for the various Stampin Seals. So Stampin Seal Plus for one pocket and Stampin Seal for the other. You can also use this desk caddy for other things as well. Pens and scissors and bone folder, whatever you need. So it comes in handy, it keeps you organized. I know I need that, so I'm sure there are other people out there who need a little extra help with getting things organized and having things available to them in their craft room when they're creating wonderful things, all the beautiful things that we create, right? Okay, so here's what you need. You need a ribbon or thread or something that's optional, but I quite like the addition of that. This is the braided linen trim. So I'm going to be using that. And the reason I'm not giving you a measurement for that is because you may want to only wrap it around once, or you might want to wrap it around twice. It depends on your preferences and how big your bow might be. So instead of cutting it in advance and then having waste, you can wrap it around and tie it on your project at the end and only use what you need. So that's how I do it. I also have an extra piece of ribbon. This is just 9 inches long. It's sort of it'll be an extra embellishment on this piece. That will come into play near the end of my video. And then you have a bunch of pieces that you'll need to have prepared for your project. So here is the designer series paper that I've chosen. Yeah, I had an extra piece in there. I don't need that extra piece. Okay, so you're going to need designer series paper that measures 7 inches by 1 7/8 of an inch. That may be adjusted depending on your box. So you might need to trim that 7 inches down. That will come in later as well. And then you have another piece of designer series paper that is 7 inches by 3 3/4 inches. 3 3/4 inches by 7. And then you're going to have two pieces of designer series paper. These ones will measure 3 3/4 by 1 7/8. So you'll cut two of those. And then you're going to have some cardstock pieces, and you should be able to cut these with just using 2 pieces of cardstock. So one of your pieces of cardstock, you'll be able to cut 2 pieces out of that. So you're going to cut your cardstock to 8 inches instead of 8 1/2. So just cut that extra 1/2 inch off. And then it will be 4 1/2 inches by 8 inches. The other piece from that same piece of cardstock will be that same 8 inches wide, but it will be 6 1/2 inches high. And then your next piece of cardstock, you will cut these 3 parts. You will have one piece that is 5 1/4 inches by 6 inches. And beside that, from your piece of cardstock, you'll get a piece that is 3 1/4 inches by 6 inches. So that will cut from the same piece of cardstock. See, together they make 8.5 inches. So you just have enough in your width of an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. And then the third piece from that bottom piece of that cardstock is going to be 6 inches wide by 4.5 inches. Okay, so you'll have 3 pieces that are 6 inches wide. And then you'll have 2 pieces that are 8 inches wide. And each of those pieces now you're going to do some scoring. So if you have the Simply Scored tool like I do, it makes it super simple and easy because I don't have to move anything around. I can just use my scoring lines. But if you have a scoring blade on your paper trimmer, then you can use that as well. I really like the Simply Scored tool because I can have one piece of paper on here and just go crazy with my score lines. And it gives me opportunities to do other techniques as well. So each piece has a similar kind of way of doing the scoring. So you have the 3 6-inch pieces. All of those pieces are going to be scored at 2 inches and 3 inches. So along the 6-inch length, you'll do 2 inches and 3 inches. So every single one of those 6-inch pieces. So this is 6 inches wide, so that's 2 inches and 3 inches. My third piece, that's 6 inches wide, I'm scoring at the 2 inches and 3 inches. So each of those is scored the same. So far, so good. Now we're going to flip them so that our first scoring lines are now horizontal. And we're going to do 2 vertical lines on each piece that is only 1 inch from the edge. So from the right edge, we go 1 inch in, and from the left edge, we're going to go 1 inch in. So I can do 4 1/4 because my piece of paper is 5 1/4. Or I can just flip it around and do another 1 inch from the edge on the left side. So that's what I'm going to do for all of these 6-inch long pieces. So those are ready to go, and then I can do my 8-inch pieces. My 8-inch long pieces are going to be scored at 4 inches and 5 inches. So 8-inch long, 4 inches, and 5 inches. All right, and then the same thing. We want to do a score line 1 inch from each edge. So 1 inches, on the length. And I'm just flipping it around and doing 1 inch. I find that easier just because all my pieces are a little bit different in size, so I don't have to think. So I just do the 1 inch side and flip it around. Whoops. 1 inches. Oh, I'm going out of track there. There we go. And flip it around and 1 inch. So that's all of our scoring. So I'm going to put away my scoring tool. So now I can start folding and preparing all of my pieces. So what I'm going to do is just fold along every single score line. Where's my bone folder? Has disappeared. There it is. And I'm going to make my folds nice and crisp with a bone folder. If you don't have a bone folder, you can try using an acrylic block or the backside of a wood block from your stamp supply. Just make sure whatever you're using has a nice flat edge and a smooth edge so it won't damage your paper. So I have all of those edges pre-folded. And then I can take my scissors, my paper snips, and I can just snip on the score lines I've created here, the 4 inches and 5 inches. I can cut a slit on those 2 score lines just to the 1 inch score line, and then do that on both sides. Of each piece. So I have these little tabs. Okay. You're going to do that to all of your pieces. So every piece you're going to fold them and then cut those little tabs. And once you've done that, then you can glue these individual boxes are going to be made by folding and gluing. And then we'll put those boxes together. So I'm going to show you how to fold each box. Like I said, they're all the same. I'm going to use my tear and tape because I know that it will hold really, really well. And I won't have, alternatively, I would use my multi-purpose liquid glue, but it oozes. It is faster, but it can ooze. So to reduce ooze, I can use my tear and tape. Another option would be the Stampin Seal. Stampin Seal Plus specifically. So it's a nice strong adhesive for boxes, and it's tidy and won't get you sticky like, well, maybe I'll use that today actually. I've convinced myself we'll use this one. It's nice to have options though. The Tombow liquid glue is what I'm familiar with, so that's what I tend to focus on. Okay, so I want, when I fold each box, my longest section is going to go on the inside of all the other folded pieces. So that means that my adhesive is going to go on these outside, the tabs on the outside here. So I'm going to be pretty thorough with my Stampin Seal Plus. Whoops. I don't use it very often. It's pretty new. I don't know how thorough I need to be with this stuff. With my Tombow liquid glue, I go crazy and do lots. Thin, but lots. With tear and tape, I kind of just do stripes. But with this yeah, I don't know. It is faster than the tear and tape, so that's nice. Okay, so I've adhered those little tabs to the outside of my longer piece there, and then I can fold over my shorter tab box. I don't know what end, the shorter end. I can fold that over. When I do that, whoops, in order to get my box a little more straight, make sure it doesn't get, because boxes can sometimes get wonky, I make sure that when I attach that piece, that it's parallel to the fold on that same side, if that makes any sense. And you can see my little tab pieces sticking out. That doesn't matter. We can just trim that off with the paper snips so that it's just so it doesn't stick out past my back of my box. So then the same thing with this one. Fold it over so that it's parallel, give or take, with the fold at the back of your box. And then you're going to do that with every single, just trimming off this tab. Come here, tab. It doesn't want to. Maybe I don't need to trim that one if it's not sticking out far enough to grab it. So then you have this sort of box that has a taller back than the front. And I will go ahead and do the other ones. Okay, fun thing about using the Stampin' Seal is that I've done all the other boxes and I realized I can just go right across my line here, because the way that this Stampin Seal Plus is, it's hard to see them, but it has these little perforations all along. So I can just do that and then whoop, peel those away and it's ready to go. So that made it extra quick. Got a little bit on my, there we go, table. So yeah, that makes it really fast. So this is my last box. Beauty. There we go. So now I have a whole bunch of these funny looking boxes. So I have some that are taller. So those are going to go in the back of my holder. And then I've got the shorter ones. They're going to go in the front in order of size, narrowest, medium, and then longest. Okay, so we're going to attach those together. So Stampin' Seal or any kind of tape runner is a bit more awkward when you're working with a surface that's moving up and down. So I'm going to jump over to my tear and tape. And I'm going to attach my boxes together to each other. So you can see how the tear and tape is a bit more time consuming because I have extra things to do. Not like a tape runner that's super fast, but I know that it will hold these pieces together really nicely. So you can see I'm just pressing them together from each side. And then I probably should go in and I can use my bone folder and press against my finger inside this one and really get those pieces stuck together using pressure. There we go. So those are done. So that's the back side. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm also going to just trim this centerpiece at an angle from the top corner to the bottom corner. I'm going to leave the side ones until I have the rest of the boxes attached, just because I can connect the angle, make sure the angle's the same as it carries on to the front boxes. Okay, so then these ones I'll do the same, attach them together with tear and tape. And I will just stop the video and turn it back on when I'm done putting those ones together. Okay, I'm just trimming this last piece on the inside. So now I have 2 boxes with compartments. This one looks a little wonky. It's not matching up. I'm not sure why. I had them laying down, but that's okay. So if that ever happens, just take your bone folder and you can kind of train that piece to fold where you want it to so that you don't have that ridge. This one is pretty good. All right, so then we're going to attach them together. So they're going to attach like this. And I don't know if you can see, but if I line it up exactly on the one side, it's off. It doesn't line up on the other. I fussed and worked on that to try to make it fit properly, but I gave up on it. So mostly I think it's just because it needs to be, it's such a small difference. So what we're going to do is, if we attach the back piece centered on the front piece so that we have an equal amount on each side that's overlapping, instead of a large gap on one side, if we line up the other, then we can do that same technique with the bone folder to even those out. And then you don't even notice. I gotta even this one out too. Okay, so I'm going to use the tear and tape again. So I'm putting the tear and tape on the back, the front of the back, the taller pieces. Like that. And then another piece here. So I'm going to be pretty thorough with my tear and tape. I want my boxes to all hold together really nicely. So I'm going to do another one on the sides. And I'm just going to throw another one in the middle just for good measure. I want this to, you know, stand the test of time in my craft room, and I know myself. I know I can be rough on my things, so I want to make sure it's going to make it through all of that. There we go. So now I can attach those two together. I'm going to do it so that they're standing up. Then I can visualize and have the front one, or sorry, the back one centered on the front one. And now while I'm doing that, I like to try to line up the top of this front piece with the back top of this, or sorry, back piece with the back top of the front piece. Man, sometimes English is hard, you know? Okay, so I'm going to work at getting those together. There. Pretty good. So you can see there is a bit of a difference on the bottom of my box. That's quite a bit on this side. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I'm just trying to pull that over a bit. I'm not sure if that's going to help me. There we go. So then I need to get in there and make sure that those pieces are connecting really well. And then you have kind of your skeleton of your stand, and now we need to make it pretty, right? So first let's start by just pressing on those edges with your bone folder to kind of get them to line up with the edge or with each other before we put any decorative things on top. So you can see that it's mostly lined up. The bottom corner is going to be a bit tougher because corners are tougher. They just have more strength and structure. But you can see how we can work on that a bit to get it to behave itself. This one's sticking out quite a bit more. We'll see how that looks in the end. All right. Then we can, now that we've kind of smoothed out the sides as best we can, this one doesn't want to smooth out much more because it's quite a bit different than the other side was. But once my patterned paper is on there, I think it will hide that quite nicely. Okay, so then we can go ahead and trim off our corner or our end pieces with our paper snips, and I can make sure that they line up fairly well. And because I did that little smooshing technique with my bone folder, if I had cut that beforehand, then those would line up very differently if I cut it first and then smooshed it with my bone folder. That's why I leave it to the end. There we go. So now we have our ends trimmed, and then we're ready for our decorations. All right, so let's get our designer series paper that we have cut. So now it's important to lay out your paper first and make sure that it's the length that you want. I find that the front one is pretty good because that's what I actually went by when I chose the measurements I did. The back one is going to be a bit long because if you recall, the back was shorter, right? So we can trim off, you can trim off maybe 1/8 of an inch off of the back to make that one fit. So let's use, oh, I could use this side too. That's quite pretty. The paper I have here, by the way, is only available as a celebration item coming up in January, so that's pretty exciting. It's quite pretty paper. So I'm just using my Stampin Seal Plus. Sometimes it doesn't want to get started. There we go. I also really like using my Tombow liquid glue for this particular part, just because if I'm with the liquid glue, if I'm off a bit, if I'm crooked, I can reposition it because it takes a bit of time to dry. But I'm going to be really careful and try to get this on straight. Okay, that's good. There we go. That's the front. And then the back, I'm just going to quickly trim my 7-inch piece just by like 1/8 of an inch, just so it will fit better. There we go. Then I have a nice edge on both sides. Another thought with using this versus Tombow liquid glue is the Tombow liquid glue is probably cheaper. So that's something to take into consideration as well. So that goes on the back. So cute. And you might find sometimes the bottom edge becomes a bit curved just because we're attaching a bunch of boxes together. It can misshape the bottom. So mine's actually pretty good. I've made some where they kind of tilt a little bit once they're sitting on your table, but it's not, you know, I don't feel like that's really a significant problem. So the next thing we're going to do is get our side pieces going on here. So what I need to do is cut this corner edge off. Now, instead of measuring and using, you know, a pencil and a ruler and making sure it all lines up, I'm just going to pay attention to which corner I need to get rid of. And then I'm going to fold that corner and line it up with the edge of my piece. And then I can either just glue it on like that, or I can trim that along that score line that I've created, that fold line. And I can use my paper snips like I am now, or I could use a paper trimmer if I wanted to be more precise with a straight edge. My glue. All right, my liquid glue is almost out, so I won't fuss with that. I just want to make sure. It's hard to get into that corner with a tape runner. Liquid glue would be a lot easier. So this is my wonkiest one. Oops. That's my wonkiest one, but we're going to just go with it. Because it will just disappear and you'll completely forget about it. It's not one of those things that's going to really bug you because it's not in a spot that you're going to notice. See, disappeared. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this side. Make sure pay attention to which corner needs to be folded down. And then I can fold that corner down. Trim along that fold line. And get my adhesive on there. Get it started. Get rid of cat hair or dog hair or fluff, whatever happens to try to connect to your adhesive. I don't know what that was, just fluff, I guess. Does anybody else get fluff in their mask? I get like little tiny fluff pieces in my mask when I'm in the store or whatever, and it tickles my nose. It's just the tiniest piece, and I can barely even find it. It's so tiny. Like when I take my mask off in the car and look, I can't see it. Can't find it. There. It's coming along very nicely. So our last element that we want to add, this is the box basically. So you could leave it as that, or you can add some ribbon or decorations as you wish. So I'm going to add some of this, I can't remember the name of things, braided linen trim. I'm going to wrap it around just the one time. I could do 2 times like I did with my other box, but I'm just going to go one time around, tie. How do I tie? This way. And then I can tie a bow. Oh, but there's a fun thing that I want to show you with ribbon, with that extra piece of ribbon. Okay, so here's the thing. So I've tied a single knot. Just going to wrap one of these. This is a trick I was shown. Let's see if it works for me with this braided linen trim. So I'm just wrapping a second time, and it just helps to hold that knot a little bit better while I get my other ribbon ready. This is my 9-inch strip of Pool Party, again with the names, Pool Party sheer ribbon. so light and fresh. I'm just going to fold it into 2 loops. I want kind of longer tails than my loops, I think. Like that. And then I'm going to put that in the center of my knot. And then I can hold it there. If you need to tie a second knot over top before you tie your bow, you can do that as well. And there we have it, a cute little box to put our goodies in. So, and I have to fuss, I always have to fuss with my bows. This one doesn't want to tie very tight. Let's give it a good pull there. Really want your knot to be tight so that it doesn't undo when you're just sitting there doing your crafts and all of a sudden you notice my bow is untied. Nobody wants that. I'm going to trim my frayed edge on this piece here. There. Trim this one. There we go. And we have an adorable storage place for our adhesive. So we have Tombow liquid glue will go in there. We have tear and tape, dimensionals, and glue dots. So the dimensionals can go in the back with the tear and tape. Glue dots can go in the front. Stampin Seal Plus at the back. Your liquid glue at the front. And another Stampin Seal, your regular Stampin Seal can go in this spot there. And there it is. Perfect, great way to store your stuff on your craft table. So this is the other one I made. You can see this one has the double linen thread or linen trim. This designer series paper is not available yet either, but this is one you can buy. So that's going to be available in the January catalog that's coming out, which is also what this paper is here. It's from that same paper pack. And this one was one of my prototypes, and I made some of my pockets too small. So this one will be used for other things. I can still fit dimensionals in that pocket, but it will not fit a brand new tear and tape. It's too small. Same with the glue dot spot. It's too, I think, maybe that's, oh, that still fits. So the glue dot still fits in there, but the tear and tape spot was too small. The other thing is this spot here, you could put sticky notes. So you can store some sticky notes in there. I don't think this will fit. No, that one won't fit there. Anyways, you can store lots of different things. Here's another one that I made. Lots of different patterns of paper that you could use to make these wonderful holders. So there you go. I'm glad that you watched, and I hope that you create something beautiful that you can store your supplies in on your crafting table and keep yourself organized. Organization makes crafting just that much more enjoyable. So I hope you have a great day and yeah, enjoy some crafting. Thanks for watching.